Hello, welcome to the Rockstar Coach Brand Club. I'm Melissa Henry. I'm your host. I'm so excited because today is the premiere episode of this show, and I get to interview one of my favorite people in the coaching industry. I'm going to welcome my first and very special guest, Elyse Archer. But before I do, I just want to tell you, Elyse, I met her probably about 4 years ago after I began my own personal brand building journey. And I've been following the growth of her business and her brand and her podcast ever since then. And I invited Elyse on the show because just by listening to her podcast regularly, she's helped me like fine tune my mindset as an entrepreneur and reframe my negative subconscious thoughts to more powerful and more productive ones. And if that weren't enough, Elyse is the founder of the She Sells movement and, of course, her related podcast. She's an international keynote speaker. She's a Salesforce top influencer, and she's been featured in major media, including Forbes and Inc. And she's so passionate about empowering her clients to sell in a way that leverages their natural gifts and helps them build wealth along the way. And so without further ado, I want to welcome Elyse to the Rockstar Coach Brand Club.
Oh, thank you, Melissa. This is so good to be here with you and with just what an amazing community we've got here today. I'm so excited. I'm just looking around at every face and I'm so inspired by all of you and what you're up to. So thank you for having me.
Yes, yes. And so, guys, I want to say to you, you're here in the Zoom room. Actually, we're going to go ahead and go live right now, too. Let's see. Let's go live. And what's really cool about give me 1 second here because we've got to do a link, of course, right? So here it comes. The link is coming. While that's happening, it's so cool for us because we get to at least questions directly. So if you are in the Zoom room with us, you get that benefit. And so if anyone is out there live with us on social media, we're going to pop something into the chat. So if you want to come into the room with us, you can. So Jenny, do you want to handle that?
Yes.
Great. Okay. So let's move forward here. So Elyse, tell us if you like, I would love to get just a quick backstory of why did you become a coach and what kind of led you to, and this is maybe a big question, what led you to creating this incredible business that you have today?
Oh my gosh. Sure. So I think I always kind of loved coaching without realizing I was doing it. Even when I was in the corporate world, I was selling media and online advertising. And I found that I was in a very male dominated sales environment. And I found that the ways that worked for me to be successful in sales weren't necessarily what was being promoted and taught by leadership and upper management. And there was just a lot of things that felt like, frankly, just felt off to me, whether it was you've got to hard close people or you've got to, hustle day in and day out to hit your sales goals. And I tried all those things and found myself, I would say, looking on the outside like I was doing well, but on the inside struggling so much with anxiety, panic attacks, self-doubt. And so I'd kind of gone on this personal journey of saying, there's got to be a different way of making money. There's got to be a way that feels aligned for me and doesn't feel like I'm like having to take advantage of people, or just a lot of the stuff that was taught didn't feel right. And I worked with some amazing, specifically female mentors who taught me a different way to sell and taught me a way to be in my own personal power doing it. And I started sharing that with some of the other women in my workplace who I was working with. And it was just like everyone's results skyrocketed. There was a whole different vibe and way of doing it. And I think simultaneously what was going on in my world was I was really feeling the call to be an entrepreneur. And I'm probably, maybe I would say on the spectrum of risk, I'm a little more risk tolerant than many people might be. So I remember I was like, I'm going to go out on my own and become a coach. And I had started this brand called Six Figure Sales Coaching. And I had one client who had paid me $300 to review a presentation for him. at the time. That was the most exciting money I had ever made up until that point, even though, I mean, I was like, I was doing pretty well in corporate, but to me, that was proof of concept. I can make money outside of this corporate job. And I left. I was like, I'm out. Peace.
Wow.
There's a lot of stuff going on in the company too, where it was time. So it was very much an intuition, like time to go type of thing.
Mm.
But I went out and I started my business, and building a personal brand was a really big part of that too. So we can, it's just a testament to the importance of what you do, Melissa, and this community. But yeah, and then I forget the second part of the question. So please rein me back in and tell me what else.
Well, I think you kind of answered it, because I just was saying, like, why did you become a coach, and how did you, I guess the second part of that is, how did you get to this incredible place in your business? And you started to touch on that with the personal brand side, but I know there was more to it.
Yeah, there definitely was. And it's been a journey. I officially went out on my own as a coach in 2015. And along the way, I partnered up with a much bigger organization that was in the sales coaching space. I was like an independent contractor with them. So I worked my way kind of up the ranks with them, became a partner in that company. And then there were some really unexpected changes that happened almost overnight within leadership. And I found myself suddenly, I kind of invested my heart and my soul in building with this organization. And I was leading a global team. I was traveling around the world, teaching and training and coaching. I had a really nice 6-figure income coming in primarily from them. Was speaking, like I said, like all the things. And it was like overnight, I had to make a decision that there were things going on that weren't in alignment with what I believed in and how I wanted to show up and run my business. And I found myself with a 2-year non-compete where I couldn't talk sales. I couldn't do anything I'd been doing. It was like, you go from one day feeling like you know exactly where you're going and what your path is, to the next day, literally not being able to talk to any of your clients, not being able to talk to any of the team you were leading, having to take down website, brand presence, like everything. And I felt like the whole like rug had been ripped out from under me in many ways. And so I say that to say there's been quite a journey of, it hasn't been like a consistent straight line. So I think that's really important for people to know.
Yes.
And I've had to rebuild over the past, however many years that was. I think that happened in 2018, 2019. I think 2018 was when that happened. So kind of pivoted. There was a number of us who left because we just weren't in alignment with what was going on in the company. And we started the new company, Brand Builders Group. And that was amazing, but still my heart and soul and passion was sales. And so it's really just been, I would say, since 2020 that I was able to get back into the sales coaching and speaking and training space and started rebuilding kind of just like completely on my own. So it's never like the straight line path of success that we wish it was, right? But you don't get the lessons that way either.
You don't. And I think that's a common thing that we hear a lot out there, is that, oh, we'll just do this, like this tactic, right? Just do this next thing. This is the answer. This is the magic bullet. And there's just so much more there. There's like, I'm always looking at this as more of a, mindset trick, or not trick, but like, it's a mindset thing. Like, I don't know, 95% of it. I mean, it's incredible. And, we teased this show out with the concept that I've, seen in your own social media and in your podcast, with the concept of, and so that's like, it feels like it's a bit of a hook, right? But it is only to get your attention, I think. But like we talked about, turning your yearly income into your monthly income. And I would love for you to just explain to people, why is that important for coaches and consultants? Like, why should we be thinking about things this way?
Oh my gosh. Well, number one, it's fun, right? Like, who doesn't want to
exactly.
Who doesn't want to do that, right? But, one of the things that I found along the way in my own journey, and then with the clients I was working on too, was there was so much under the hood that contributed to our success that we didn't necessarily realize. And, Melissa, to your point, if it's like 95% mindset, it really, really is. And, my own path was, in my mind, and I'm just going to use numbers here for context. Everyone, like some people are listening here, they have bigger numbers, some people have smaller. It doesn't really matter. It's all just context. But for me, in my mind, when I was growing up and then in college and going into the corporate world, I was like, if I can just make six figures, I'm good. Like to me, that felt very abundant. And it's not to say it's not a great income and you can't make a great life off of it, because you can. And when I got there, and I got there pretty fast, I realized, number one, in today's environment, it doesn't get you what I thought it would.
Right.
And then number two, so I started desiring more for my life, but no matter what I did, no matter what tactic I used, I stayed stuck there at that level. And it was like, I'd always make the same amount of money, no matter what job I was working, no matter what the vehicle was, no matter how much I worked, I would always make like right in that low six-figure range. And I want to think about how to most quickly explain this without going on a deep dive of the subconscious mind. Here's what I'll say is I desired more for my life. And I was watching other, again, female entrepreneurs, coaches I was working with who were making seven figures, multi-seven, et cetera. And I was secretly wanting that, but making myself so wrong for it, and really feeling like I should be satisfied with what I had and happy with where I was, and kind of like, so many women would just be so thrilled to be where you are, right? Kind of that type of self-talk. But I had a much greater calling on my life, and I had much greater things I wanted to do with my life that just required more resources. And so I finally just kind of made the decision that I was going to do whatever it took to get out of my own way, because I realized how much I was holding back. I call this term like putting your life on layaway. There were so many things I wanted to do that required more than what I was financially bringing in at that point. I wanted to be able to retire my husband from working so that he could focus on his dream of applying for medical school. I wanted to donate more money. I wanted a better lifestyle. Like, I'm not afraid to say it. I wanted the clothes and the shoes and all. Like, I wanted it all, I wanted it all. And I realized that I was the only one standing in my own way, because I felt like I was waiting on someone to come give me permission that I could finally have it. And I just kind of woke up and realized no one's going to come give you permission. Like, I'm the one who's got to stake a claim over my life and say, I'm worth it. And if I see anyone else doing something and it speaks to me at my soul level, that's a sign that it's meant for me as well. And so I just made a commitment at that point that I would do whatever it took to get out of the old limiting money beliefs. Because along the way, though, I think one part I didn't mention was like, I was making okay money, but I was in constant fear about it going away. I was in scarcity energy. I was in anxiety about whether clients, so even though every month I had clients, I was still in anxiety. Like, will there be more clients? Will the money come in, or will it all dry up? And I just was like, this has to change. I'm not available for more years of my life to be spent in this cycle of wanting more, but not allowing myself to have it, and scarcity mindset and energy. So again, I made the commitment that I'm going to do whatever it takes to shift my thinking and my mindset here, because I was conscious enough to know it wasn't so much about a certain tactic that wasn't bringing in more money and clients. It was more like who I was being and what my mindset was. And I just said, God, universe, like, point me in the direction and I'll do what I need to do. And be careful when you say that, because you will get pointed in the right direction. And it was something like the very next day, I was listening to a podcast of a woman that I'd been following, not for too long, actually, but she focused specifically on helping moms build seven-figure businesses. And I was a new mom at the time. And she said she had room for like one or two more private clients. And I was like, okay, I'll bite. Like, all right, universe, this is speaking to exactly what I said I would look for. So I'll bite. So I hop on an application call with her. It's like, yes, this is perfect. I could tell she had like the right energy that I needed to absorb to be able to kind of catapult and skyrocket my results. And then at the end, she tells me the investment to work with her was half of what I had made the whole year before for 6 months.
Wow.
And it was like oh crap moment. Like, I'm now being called on to do something that defies every odd, that makes zero logical sense, that feels petrifying. I told you before, I'm like pretty okay with risk, but this was way outside my comfort zone. But it was just this knowing in me that I had to do something to finally get so uncomfortable to get out of my own way and face every money demon I had, face every limiting belief I had. And so found a way to scrap together the deposit on a credit card. And I said, I'm worth it. Like that to me was the biggest thing, was it was like, I am worth investing this much in. And in that process, went on a bit of a big journey of facing every money demon I had, facing every limiting belief about worthiness, feeling so far out of the realm of my comfort zone that I couldn't even, like every day I was crying. Every day I was like, I just put my family in financial ruin. I was the breadwinner for my family. I was so worried about what I'd done for us. But it was almost like a pressure cooker of having to transform my mindset, my beliefs about what I was worthy of, what was possible for me. Launched new programs, did things so differently than I used to, and really became a different person. And that's kind of Melissa, to your point about the hook, like in 6 weeks of making that choice and doing things that felt so different than what I usually did. I went from having had $100,000 years to $100,000 months, but it was because I became a new person in the process. Yeah. So I think for each of us, whatever your goal is, and I feel like I'm kind of like going roundabout on this, but I wanted to give some context because I think people hear, oh, it sounds nice and amazing, and I would like that. But it was like pure hell. Like part of the process was going through pure hell of looking at where I wasn't believing in myself and limiting myself. And I think we have to be willing to do that if we want a dramatically different result, whether it's financially or otherwise. So to get that big gain, to really make that shift, to turn your annual income into your monthly income, or to do the thing that's terrifying you right now, you've got to be so willing to get out of your comfort zone and show up as somebody very different, because a different result is going to require you showing up in a different way. Right. And so anyway, redirect, Melissa, because I'm going to go down a tangent of
no, you are just like, you're so in exactly where you need to be on this. And I just want to like just interject that yes, this is exactly I feel exactly the same. I've had to go through those exact same moments where you're like, oh shit, like this is now, what have I done? Like, dear God, what have I done? Kind of moments. And yes, facing all of those demons, facing that like moment where you're like, oh my God, I just invested this, and what if I can't bring it home? What if, what's my family going to do? So I'm 100% on with you, and I'm feeling the feels right now myself. It's like, oh my God, I went through this too. So I want you to continue to talk about that, because actually my next question was about that. What was that breakthrough experience? And so you've already started to talk about that and about what it's going to take people to get there. I mean, and I don't think that everybody's going to have as maybe the same demons, as maybe as big of a problem. Everybody's got a different risk tolerance, I'm sure. But I would love for you to kind of wrap that up and say like what you think is maybe the next step for these people that really want to go to that level.
I think so people who want to go to the level of like building a 7-figure business or turning their annual
like
monthly income.
breaking past. I feel like this is the year for me anyway, to really go big and just stop the madness. So I'm certain there's other people out there that feel exactly the same way that I do. So I would love for that to be like, how are we going to start thinking about that?
Yeah, for sure. So I would say a few things. And we literally I was sharing with you, Melissa, I just got back last night from hosting a retreat in Sedona over the past week. It was all about creating your quantum leap. So some of this is like fresh on my mind because we were talking a lot about the steps to creating the quantum leap. I think the first thing is owning your desires. So one of the things I really believe is your desires are green lights. So we, especially as women, make ourselves so wrong for what we want. This is something that's so common, especially I see amongst the women in my community. And I'm sure as I speak to this group, like you can probably relate to that on some level, whether it's you want more financial flow in your life, whether it's you want more visibility, whether it's you want to make a lot of money and have the great relationship, like whatever it is, we make ourselves wrong for it. And what I've really come to realize in my life and seeing just so many women have breakthrough experiences through this work is that truly your desires are green lights. So, I had a desire for more in my life, yet I made myself wrong for it for so long and was stuck and spinning. And now with perspective, what I can see is because I said yes to that desire, not only has our family been impacted in so many positive ways. My husband is like, he was able to retire his job. He is able to now focus on following his passions and his pursuits. I'm able to spend lots of time with our son, and we've got another one on the way next month. And so able to have a lot of that time freedom. And, the women in our community have been impacted. Like we literally just got back from the most amazing week in Sedona of just transformation after transformation. And so we have to trust and learn that whatever that desire is that's on your heart, it's not just for you. It's because there's going to be a ripple effect that comes out from you saying yes to what you want, but you're not going to see it until you say yes to it. You're not going to see it until you own it. You're not going to see it until you take that next step and realize no one is coming to give you permission. You are the only one who can pick yourself. And so in that process of picking yourself, like thinking about what is it that's on your heart for this year that you maybe are too afraid to admit, or you're like, oh, I really, like, if I'm being really honest with myself, this is really what I want. However, I'd be happy to settle with this, or that's never happened for me before, so I don't see how it's possible. So instead, I'm just going to set a goal that I know I can hit, because that way I won't be disappointed. Like, no, like actually open up to what do you really want? And if you don't think you know what you want, you actually do. We kid ourselves and we say we don't know. And it's usually that we've been told we think too big or want too much. So I look at, if there were no consequences or limitations, what would I want? If I knew that no one was going to get hurt in the process of me going for what I want, what would I want? If I knew that no matter what, it would happen, what would I want? Right. So playing with questions like that, because
Mhm.
And then there's always an inner game to it. There's always an inner game to it. And I don't know that we have enough time to go through like every step of the process, but I pay attention to whatever thoughts show up about why I can't have what I want, or why I'm crazy, or why I'm thinking too big, because those are all just limiting beliefs. Right. And so here's the thing is, you have been, I don't want to say it. A limiting belief is you think it's true. It sounds like you, it's in your voice. It may have been your lived experience in the past, but anything that tells you you cannot have a true desire of your heart is not true. It is a lie. And so our work is to debunk it. Our work is to look at why it's not true. Sometimes we have to look at someone else and say, is this universally true? Is it universally true that you can't make 7 figures as a coach? Maybe I've never done it, but is it true for everyone? Right? There's universal truths like the law of gravity. We all get to deal with that one. But whatever the limiting belief is for you, if it's not true for every single person on the planet, it doesn't have to be your truth. But there's something that it's protecting you from, that you think you're protecting yourself from. And so this is something that I work on with my clients, this concept of secondary gains, which is like, by you not going for what you want, by you not having enough financial flow in your life, by you not being as visible as you want to be, what are the benefits to you? Because there's always some sort of benefit. It usually has to do with protection, not having to put yourself out there too much. If you were told a story about you're not responsible with money, well, if you don't have more, then you don't get the chance to be irresponsible, so you can't mess it up, right? It's like there's all of these underlying factors that come into play for why we don't go for what we want. And so we have to know what those are. And then there is a bit of a process, but you can rewire your brain and your mindset. And this is one of the core foundations of what I do with my clients now, is we have to build from that belief system and that foundation that's in alignment with what you want. Because if you want to build a 7-figure business this year, I'm just going to use that for example. Maybe you want more, maybe you want less, I don't care. But we got to get your beliefs in alignment with that, seeing yourself as someone who actually has that, because once your subconscious mind accepts that as your truth and your identity, it actually goes to work making that your reality. But we got to get past the gunk first. We got to get past all of the quote unquote protection of you playing small. Because to me, our goal on this planet cannot be to stay safe if we want to live a really full life.